You guys have my Twitch link, right? To read the
Yeah,
chat?
yeah, I just found it.
We do. Yep. Ah, I see it. Yeah.
Let me announce it. Okay. Hopefully there won't be any lag on my screen. Bless you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hopefully you did not become allergic to my speech. Okay. It's on. I'm guessing it's on, but why I can't reopen my Discord? You guys can hear me, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay. So, okay. Hölgyek, urak, a streamen lehet hallani? Guys and girls in the stream, can you hear us? Hogy nem 6-tól? Azért, mert az úriembernek diplomosztója volt. We started at 8 since Neo had his ceremony. How was it, by the way?
Yeah, it was great. I got my diploma, and I ended up
Congratulations for that, by the way.
instantly making my way back. I just instantly made my way back.
And thank you for your time too.
Yeah, no problem. Of course.
Thank you. Okay. Hölgyek, urak, jól működik a stream? Guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, please let me know if there is no lag, since I know it was laggy these days. Please let me know that we can start.
Yes.
Hölgyek, urak, nem laggol? Egyáltalán nem laggol. Okay, let me. Please let me know. Lurkers out there, I know it's late on my end, but yeah, please let me know. Gergős nem laggol egyáltalán? DDR. Te is írd meg, hogy nem laggol. Could you guys also check if there is no lag? If it's not a big...
Yeah, let me check for you.
Thank you for that. Okay.
There doesn't appear to be any lag.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Ooh, but my voice is a bit loud. Maybe I should lower my microphone volume.
For me, it's not that loud.
No? Okay, it sounds louder than yours.
Oh, okay. Should I speak louder then?
I don't know if it's speaking louder. I think I should just lower my microphone volume a little bit.
Okay. Let me know if you can start.
Yeah. All right.
Are you good to go? Are we good to go?
Yeah, I'm good.
I would say we're good to go. Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. Welcome everyone to the very new episode of my Dev Life show. I'm joined today with the creators of BLOODSTAR, and I'm very honored, like I'm always saying, and very thankful that you accepted my request for this video interview. And like I'm always saying, let's start with a little bit of introduction. So please, all of you, introduce yourself for us.
All right. Yeah, I'm Neo. I'm the game director, game designer, and the free modeler and artist.
Okay.
And I'm also a voice actor for the game.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I am Joff. I am the composer and sound designer on this project.
Okay.
Oh, hello. I'm Mike. I'm currently a game designer and programmer for this project.
Oh, nice. Okay, so here comes the very first question of mine. So I'm always interested in people's, childhood memories about games and how they got the first connection to video games. So let's hear all of your stories about that.
All right. I suppose I'll start.
Okay.
So the first game I ever played was Metal Gear Solid 3 when I was 6.
Nice.
That was probably the game that got me into gaming, and Metal Gear Solid has quite literally become my favorite franchise of all time at this point. Okay. So I would imagine it probably left a pretty big impact on the way that I view and design games as well right now. especially from a story perspective. Thank you, Kojima.
Backlogged the past episodes around that time as well, or after that time of yours?
The past episodes is in.
For Metal Gear Solid, have you backlogged those past episodes?
Oh, I have played every
nice.
single entry from the Metal Gear Solid franchise. Yes.
Okay.
All of them, even the obscure ones from the PSP.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually started on, I think, Call of Duty, the absolute like first one, the big red one. I think that's the name of it. And then after that, I played a lot of Ace Combat Zero, which is basically this plane simulator game that actually inspired me to become an aerospace engineer. So I'm very into planes and especially vehicles, just because I used to play so much flight sim and I know all these different planes. It was really cool.
I see. Okay. And what about you?
Okay. On my end, the earliest memory I can recall of playing any video games was partially the original Spider-Man tie-in game for like the Sam Raimi movies, like the original first one for the first PlayStation 2. I remember that my brother had the large, like the big PlayStation 2, not the slim one, the big one.
Yeah.
And I played it whenever he was out with the boys, and I remember accidentally pulling too hard on the controller since it was still attached to the thing, and it dropped into the ground, and I think it broke it. I don't know if it did, but I don't know if my brother was angry at me later. I can't remember that, but I know I remember breaking his PlayStation at the time, I think. But yeah, playing that tie-in Spider-Man game is kind of like got me to be very interested in Spider-Man, but also kind of got me to be interested in video games in general. And the game that kind of got me to try and get into game development was Prototype, open world,
nice. Okay.
action adventure.
Nice.
Action adventure
Love
game.
that game.
Yeah.
It's so rare to get that game for PlayStation 4, by the way. On PlayStation 3, by the way, if you know that.
Yeah, I mean it's a game of a lost generation. It's a PS3 title. It's only gotten ported to the PS4 and the Xbox One because of a bundle that they did that wasn't really that good. The bundle was terrible. And
that game was racing for fame with Infamous, if you remember.
Infamous. That. No, yeah, Infamous. Because the release.
Yeah, it was.
It was. Oh yeah, I also remember that they did a little contest with Yahtzee.
Yeah.
About if whether the two main protagonists, whether Cole or Alex, who would best look if they were cross-dressing.
True. I was so sad those two IPs did not have any, new sequels. I mean, Infamous did really on the PlayStation 4. But yeah, it wasn't. In my opinion, it wasn't that good like the past two or first two ones. So yeah.
True, but there's always a chance for Infamous to make there's always a chance for Infamous to make a comeback. Sucker Punch is still around. They're still under Sony. They have the IP and everything. Prototype's dead in the waters.
Yeah.
Prototype
games were so badass. I can tell you that. I love those games. Yeah.
I will say. I said let's Sucker Punch cook right now with the Samurai games, and we'll see what Infamous does afterwards.
Yeah, these big companies are playing in very safe play with these games, that's why they are, afraid to go back to old IPs. It's very similar to the state of the Killzone Resistance.
Yeah, I was about to mention Killzone. I was literally about to mention Killzone.
Killzone,
I was this close to saying, just look at what's going on.
Motorstorm, yeah. All the classic
I was this close to
games.
saying, look what's going on with Guerrilla Games, where they refuse to go back to Killzone. Everything is Horizon.
Exactly. Although a lot of people loved it, and it was such a great story. And the multiplayer was a hardcore, skill-based oriented multiplayer. I loved that. Killzone 2's and third multiplayer was so good. Like I did that. And also there was a game called Starhawk, if you remember that. They combined the base building elements with multiplayer part, also like the PvP part. It was also like a TPS game, so it had such of a combination of good gameplay elements. So yeah, there were
Don't think I remember that. Sorry, I don't think I remember that one.
It's okay.
Okay.
I'm a gaming catalog, so you can ask me.
Fair enough.
Okay. So so what's the story behind you forming as a team and also starting game development? So what's the story behind that?
So I guess I'll start again.
Okay.
Basically, right. For the last 4 years or so, I think I've known all of my team members, except for the voice actors. I think I've known them all for about 4 years now.
Okay.
In 2020. For the last 4 years, you constantly basically see game ideas being thrown in and out with nobody really doing anything in order to make a game. So it was around the beginning of this year, well, around March this year. I was like, okay, you know what, guys, if we really want to make a game, then we got to actually make the game, right? We got to do something about it. We can't just sit here and talk about how much we love making it, how much we love this game idea, and then not make anything. So I said, screw it. I'm going to start up a little group chat. I'm going to start building the game up, and whoever the hell wants to join, joins. What's funny is that I say this a lot over the course of the last 4 years. I've said often, like, okay, well, I'm going to make a game, guys, and I never do anything with it. But I decided, yeah, I'm modeling now, and now I'm rigging it, and I'm making animations, and I'm learning texture painting, and learning this entire art style personally. And because I did quite a bit, I made like 10, 15 models before people were really convinced that I was serious about this, you know? And after people were really convinced that I was serious about it, then all of a sudden, people were like, okay, if that's, it's clearly a thing. It's a tangible thing now. It's no longer just a pipe dream, right? So it was at this point, and I was making a game design document. I was talking with multiple programmers. I was talking with multiple voice actors. I had just finished a study in media design. I was making logos and fonts and logo animations. And at that point, people were like, "Okay, you know what? Maybe there's some meat on these bones. So let's work on it." And now we are here.
I see. And
So, yeah,
what
that's
do
the
you
story.
think? What do you think? Like, was the case that you guys, as for those 4 years that you have mentioned, did not want to start, or was it like you were afraid, or was it like you had some other things to do in your life that could not let you make your games or your game idea? What could be the case?
I'm gonna say it really shortly, and then I'm gonna give it over to Mike
Okay.
what his reason would be. But I'm gonna say it really shortly. I think none of us just had the. I think none of us, not to be mean, but I think none of us just had the drive to really say, "All right, let's do it. Let's just start it." I think most of us were just kind of sitting there with an idea of a game that we wanted, but never really considering like, okay, when do we make it? When do we start it? Everybody was
see.
just kind of sitting there like, yeah, okay, well, I want to make a game,
But
and
that's
nobody did
great
anything.
because like you guys made the first step, and now I hope that you won't take it back. Like,
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
We're
Mike.
too deep in the trenches.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
You're exactly sunk cost fallacy. I believe in the sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah, I think in those initial years, it's a mix of not having the drive, but also, at least from my perspective, I was kind of busy with my own thing.
Okay.
I was doing college, and now I'm doing university. But
I see.
it's kind of like now I have more free time in comparison to before, where I was a full-time student. I was kind of like bouncing, doing multiple projects. I was in multiple classes at the time.
I see.
So, but I was also juggling, managing stuff from back home. So I was very busy back then. Didn't exactly have time to try to make a game. I had plenty of ideas. I've only recently tried to, had the gall to try and, execute on some of those ideas in some projects. But
Okay.
before, not really.
Were you
But now,
studying, by
yeah,
the way, something
yes,
connected for
yes,
the...
yes. I'm actually doing masters in game design.
Oh, okay, nice.
And
Okay.
yeah, so I'm doing that here in Spain.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's going well.
I mean, the trouble with me is I'm a very technical person when it comes to what I studied and what I went into. So I can program, but I can't program games, for instance.
I see.
The thing is, I also happen to be very good at playing guitar and learning music. So what ended up happening is I'd pick up these smaller projects where I'd code my own like little music plugins in, and I'd make those, and then I'd compose for people's things. And the thing I like about that is you get freedom. I always say like the more you're restricted into doing something, the more you have to commit to something, the more like good ideas you have, which will be as a result of procrastination.
I agree. Yeah.
So I was sitting there with like I think at one point I was on holiday or something. I was like, I'm gonna write a book, and I've never finished it, but it was sheerly because
All men
I
do,
had
right?
nothing else to
All
do.
men do this, right?
Yeah,
We're never finishing our stuff.
you know what I mean. Like it's a lot of the time the idea comes due to your circumstance, and it's either a case of you have absolutely nothing to do, which is the better one because you're more likely to finish, or you're doing something else and you're getting distracted along the way, and that's when you have ideas. So I think a lot of the reason why I haven't started up doing a lot of game stuff or making like these wider audio things is because essentially like I have trouble committing to stuff, and I think everyone does.
But why? Why do you think that's the case for a lot of people?
I think the case of committing to stuff and not following through is often as a result of having the wrong idea about the reality of the actual task.
Okay.
They, as soon as they lose that honeymoon period at the start, which is a very, very strong motivator, as soon as they lose that honeymoon period, they just kind of realize that they're probably going to have to dedicate a day or two out of their time just to like stick in and learn something in order to complete their project. And when it starts actually taking time to do stuff, then people can't do it realistically because they've got other ties and other responsibilities.
Okay. And do you
I
think
agree with Jarf.
No, sorry, go for
Sorry.
that. Go for that.
Yeah, I agree with Jarf because there's many moments right now. See, this is why I believe in sunk cost fallacy. I want to say that immediately because there was a honeymoon period for my project as well. I would say that was the first month, and I was developing as many models as possible for the game just over the course of days because I love the idea of this game so much. And then you work on it for 3 months, and it's like, okay, I still want to make this game, but I'm not in love with the idea because that phase has passed. Now I'm working on the game, and all of a sudden you got all these issues popping up, and it does end up going like, oh well, shit. I now have all these issues that I need to fix, and it's not going as smoothly as I thought. And one of the first thoughts that comes into most people's heads at this point, and I can tell this from myself, is, oh shit, maybe I just start something else. But that's the problem. When you go like, okay, maybe I'll just start something else, then this project is being left behind. You're not going to finish it once you start something else. So you just gotta focus on that project, and you gotta become a problem solver because if you don't, then it's gonna fall behind.
Okay. And so by discussing this topic, so what guys do you think have kept motivation and being motivated by making this game of yours? And find also the honeymoon period, like you said, again and again. What do you think was the motivation and the help?
Well, the biggest motivation for me to continue onwards is, I won't lie, the biggest motivation for me is because I do see progress.
Okay.
And I see that people like the idea. So I'm showing people the idea of the game, right? Especially on Discord. I'm showing people the idea of the game. I'm showing them the models. And I'm seeing people go, that looks so cool, or that looks exactly in my style, or things along those lines. And just statements like that alone make me go like, okay, so I'm making a product that people like. It's not just a thing for me anymore, right? It's a thing that others can enjoy as well. And from that perspective, it's like, well, if that's the case, then I'm going to do my best in order to get it out to as many people as possible, because clearly there's an audience for this. You know, and another motivation is that I want to like make games. I want that to be my job. You know, I want to tell stories. I've been writing books since I'm like 10. I do finish them all the time. But the problem is nobody likes to read books. Literally nobody likes to read books.
I mean, there is a part of
That means
humanity.
apparently guys like me are a rare breed.
You're a rare breed, Mike. But that also is one of the reasons why he and I could get so
it's
close.
rare, but there are people, and
you could
I
see a lot of my visions through books.
I think that's.
I love listening to books.
I think that's everyone can find their audience, right? And it's that's the scary part, I think, for every artist in every topic, like even making games or just making music or making everything or drawings, you know, that even if you don't want to, you know, rely on that people will love you or hate you, in the back of your mind you're relying on that, right? And you want to get that, not I wouldn't say attention, but like, you know,
Validation.
validation. Yeah, that's the right word for
Validation.
that. Right?
You want, yeah, you
Yes.
want to know that people enjoy what you're thinking about. That people, basically, you're literally just putting yourself out there,
Especially
because
if
that's what
you,
it is.
yeah, and especially if you have a very strict and very, you know, honest and important message to give. That's why I feel like if these people like you have these messages, and they can easily get very sad and emotional if people are not liking it or not understanding it, of course. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been there. I've been there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I mean,
People don't like
what
something
about
I've
you?
written. I get depressed.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking along the lines of a lot of that is true, and you do need a feedback input into things. I think this is very, very good for things that, like, especially like modeling and very visual things, and also programming and gameplay, because that's essentially you're constantly feeding back improvements into it. When it comes to music, however, I can't sit on a call and do music at the same time. That's impossible. Like, I have to use my full like ears and attention span, especially if I'm recording an instrument. I have to use my hands. I have to sit in a proper position in order to record guitar. So at least for me, I basically have to trick myself into sitting down for 3 hours and doing something which is only half productive in order to hopefully get a good outcome. So in terms of time efficiency, it's terrible. But I find that as long as I stay uninterrupted and I can just kind of say I'm going to give away a morning or an afternoon to something, that helps me get stuff done rather than just, um, finding some trick to do something
I
or
see.
some like instant solution, if you know what I mean.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what about you?
Hold up. What was the question again? Part of me just zoned out,
No, it's
honestly.
okay. So what have kept you be motivated around those
Motivated.
times and find the honeymoon periods that we were talking about
On work.
again
On
again?
work.
Yeah.
It's generally it's hard to explain because I do go through the process of you get a lot of cool little ideas when you're developing a
Okay.
game. Like for example, one of my own little mini projects that I did for my current university projects.
I see.
I had an idea for like a little third person game that was just emulated Max Payne. And during the development of it, I was encountering a lot of issues when it came to the ballistics and all that, animations and all that kind of stuff. And a part of me was thinking during the whole thing, like, man, I should have stuck to doing a first-person shooter. I wouldn't have to figuring all this out. I mean, no, it should be pretty easy. I already figured out how to do it in third person. Let me go ahead and restart the project in first person. But I was like, no, no. This is actually an opportunity for you to explore the various other avenues and solutions to try and figure this out.
True.
It's kind of like when you can treat the problem that you overcome with as a kind of like little puzzle game, a
Yeah.
little
Like
challenge. Kind of
adventure
help,
games,
yeah,
right?
yeah. It can kind of motivate you to try and solve said
Yeah.
problem. Is it annoying? Yes, but in a kind of what's the right masochistic kind of way. It kind of like you enjoy kind of like hitting the wall for a bit before eventually just you push through it.
True.
Yeah, it's kind of one of the main things that kind of keeps me motivated. Is when I encounter a problem, just keep it in my mind. You'll get through it. It's annoying. You'll get through it. Just figure it out. Just headbutt the wall over and over again until
Yeah.
you'll eventually crumble through it. That's the main thing. And obviously, another thing is during development of these things, you obviously come up with different ideas. It's very easy to kind of like get sidetracked with other things. Like you come up with, oh, I have an idea for this other cool little game, or maybe this other project that you think you could be more efficient at. It is like Neo said, it is important for you to stick to the current project or else it falls behind. But also, I believe it's also important to keep note of those ideas that you came up with. Like write them down or do something of the source, because one more important thing, it can either contribute later down the line in this major project that you're doing, or you can actually turn that project into something new entirely when you're done
True.
with the thing you know, that you're doing.
Especially if all of you have a lot of ideas combined, right? So
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
and you guys also forget to say that your friendship also helped you
Oh no.
It does.
kept motivated, right? I
does.
believe
Yeah,
in that.
definitely.
As a team, yeah.
Definitely. Because basically every member of the group is a friend of mine. Many of them didn't know each other and now know each other. and now they're relatively close. But
It's like a
I
second
must
family,
admit,
right?
exactly. So I must admit, it helps that they're all friends. If they were all strangers, then I don't know. It wouldn't work. It just wouldn't work because Jarf kind of understands me, right? Mike understands me. If I were to ask them something, they would know exactly what I'm asking for. If it was a stranger, then you'd get all these different varying uh, problems because of a lack of an understanding of my vision, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
I've had it once before where something is delivered and it's not quite what I want because the person doesn't really know who I am. And the problem is, a lot of this work is volunteer work, so that's going to demotivate the hell out of you.
Yeah.
So having a tight knit friendship is a strong motivator to keep going as well.
True. Okay,
Yeah.
so we were talking about like motivation and also like the first step in the making and sticking to your own ideas and making the game. So do you guys think that the very first step that you have made as a developer to make your own game also helped you grow as a person in other territories of your life?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
I believe like it teaches about commitment.
Okay.
That's the main kind of thing. Because one of the what was I want to say? One of the problems that I believe a lot of people have is committing to a lot of ideas
Okay.
or things that they come up with.
And why do you
Whether
think, or what could be the case behind that? What do you think?
it could be a variety of different factors.
Okay.
They either don't, what's the right word? They either don't fully believe on the idea that they have.
Or
They don't
words
believe that
makes them not believe, right?
yeah, or maybe they don't believe that they could. They don't have the chops to be able to complete or fulfill said
I see.
idea.
I see.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things where I kind of said before. You have to kind of like stick with it. If you've already kind of like made the first couple of steps to establish on the idea, there's no reason for you to stop.
Okay.
Huh. So can you repeat the question for me for just a second?
Yeah, so my question, do you think like the first step that you all made as to make
Yeah.
your own game helped you grow as a person in other territories of your life?
I find it difficult to answer because I feel like for me it's the other way around. I had to grow in my life before I decided to take the first step
Okay,
of making a
I see.
game,
I see.
rather than taking the first step of making the game making me grow.
I see.
I had to acquire a whole lot of personal skills, also a whole lot of personality what's it called changes
I
throughout
see.
my adult years before I was really ready to take charge of a project like this.
I see.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I mean, I've always been pretty static in terms of like what I do, at least for the past 2 years.
Okay.
Right now, I just finished my like university, so I'm basically in a period where I just have nothing for about 2 months, and I essentially decided to become a lot more active on the project just because I think it's going somewhere. And if anything, if I've grown from that, it's basically just like now I feel like I can have time to work on something which is actually something I want to like actually work on, which is just very nice. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Okay, so let's get to the game, right? So what was the very influence behind this idea? Because all of you mentioned that you had these crazy ideas about all kinds of games, but what made you stick to this exact game and what influenced this idea?
Well, I kind of gave my explanation because, uh, for me personally, it was just a case of um, I've watched so many devlog vids at this point, and I've acquired so many skills that why not try it, right? Why not try it at this point? And I imagine for everybody else, I might be putting words in their mouth, but I imagine for everybody else, it's because they saw that there was a ton of stuff being done on it, and that it wasn't just a pipe dream of mine. There was an actual game coming together here.
Okay.
But that I might be wrong on that, so I'm gonna let them say why they decided to stick with me instead.
I mean, I find when you're a composer, because composers are normally freelancers with their own kind of sound and their own kind of service. When you work with a composer, you're often saying, not only do I have a project, but you're basically saying, I want your vision of music on my project.
Okay.
So in the way that kind of Neo's been developing as a game idea and models and design of it, essentially I've been off here developing my own type of sound, which I've been putting out on my own thing, marketing that myself, and basically now that's kind of meeting a crossroads, and it's going to become like this combined experience, which hopefully is very, very enjoyable.
It's like perfect synergy, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about you?
On my end, I do say that Neo was right. He was making progress, showing that he was making models and all that. But I also already kind of like when he told me the idea of the game, I was already kind of like, oh, this is my type of game. Sure, why not? It's something I also want to do. So I'll give it my shot and see if I can help you out.
Okay. Let's see. And so, what about like your very close friends and families? Like, were they supportive, and are they supportive about your or you guys making games and making this game? How do you feel about that? I know it's a very personal question. I hope you don't mind it, of course. Let me know if any personal question.
No, I'll answer it
is
freely.
okay.
So at the moment, um, not all of my family knows that I'm doing this.
Okay.
There's a couple members. Um, um, the members that do know right now are supportive. The members that don't know for a reason.
I see.
Yeah.
And why do you think they would not be supportive if they would?
Well, for one of the members that does know right now didn't used to be supportive. They actually became supportive upon seeing that I had amassed a group to do it with me, and all of a sudden, then it's cool. When you're doing it on your own, then it's a waste of time.
But why
And
do
the other
people
one,
are like that?
yeah.
What do you think could be the case?
I don't know. I don't understand. The other one was always supportive of the idea, and the rest of the family that doesn't know, well, they tend to have a pretty anti-gaming stance in general.
I see.
So I do not want them to find out, probably ever, to be honest, that
I
I'm
mean,
making
if
this.
you guys
But
will
if
have
they do,
success, right? Then they
exactly,
at
then
least
it's
has to
inevitable.
know.
Then it's inevitable. But from my perspective, I'll cross that bridge when I get to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, I like to take advantage of NDAs whenever I have one, because it basically allows me to. I don't have to tell people. They can see the results of it when I'm allowed to announce that I've worked on it. And then if they were never interested in the first place, then they'll never find out about it, if that makes any sense. So I like to wait until something is out, and gaining results until I bother talking about something. Especially like unless people see me like working on something and they walk in on me doing it and they ask me what that is, they'll be like, oh, what is that? That looks interesting. Or what are you exactly doing right now? I heard a bunch of noises happening from your room or something because you're just making music. Then I'll tell them. But I like to not tell people what I'm doing unless it's something like, oh, I'm gonna go and help someone clean up their yard or something. Like, if it's something physical and I have to go and do something and meet with people, or that extrapolation kind of work, then I'll tell people about it, because it involves schedule. If it's something where it doesn't involve schedule and I want to maximize the time doing it, like one of these projects, then I'd never tell anyone about it. Pretty much.
Yeah.
What about you?
On my end of things, technically speaking, a good portion of the people, friends, family, do know that I'm doing game development at the moment, but they don't know what kind of projects I'm taking or that I'm doing. I can't imagine that, at least on my parents' side, that they'd be supportive of the type of stuff that I'm into. But yeah, they're all right with me doing game development. They didn't used to do before. Back when I was in high school, it kind of took a lot of convincing for them to see that, hey, this is what our son wants to do, and you see
What
he
was the
has a lot of
change
love.
for them? What was the change for them after high school years?
It was primarily my older brother.
Okay.
He kind of managed to convince it because he's kind of like the big successful guy that he's the guy that kind of understands the West and the big tech and all this kind of stuff. And he's like, "Hey, listen, mom and dad, the kid here, he kind of has this idea of the things he wants to do. He seems pretty good at it. He knows his stuff, and the stuff that he's talking about isn't exactly going to happen here because from where I come from in Africa, the game development scene isn't really much of a thing. So I had to kind of go abroad to kind of pursue my passion for stuff.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you
So
think
that's kind of like So that's kind of like what swayed him with my older brother.
I see.
That's kind of what swayed him.
Do you think like if people had more knowledge and culture in topics that they might do not understand, they would be more supportive?
Yes, definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Because like I said, my parents are, or my country, the where I come from is very traditional. Video games is not really seen much besides a bit of entertainment. Similar to,
see.
I wouldn't say similar to movies because movies are held to a much higher pedigree. If you want to pursue being an actor, no, they get it. They understand it full front. In the case of video games, it's kind of like more of a kid stuff. It's not really that
But
much
we
of a
are
thing.
kids as grown-ups, right? And it's a
No,
good
we're all
thing,
kids.
right?
I was actually going to say exactly that. There's a
So it's good to have our
childishness to
childhood,
Mhm.
right?
game
So
design.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
there is
how-
a bit of childishness to it, but it's kind of like treating it as something that you can do it as a job or a career.
I see.
Because
Yeah.
because what they were telling me is that you should probably be like a computer engineer or something of the sorts, like
Which is boring, right?
which is boring. Yeah, I mean it's an option, but
I
I'm
mean,
like,
I didn't mean to hurt anyone who is doing that, but it can
Yeah.
be boring sometimes,
Mhm.
or more boring
Here's
than
the thing:
game
you can make
development.
video games. They're basically the modern equivalent of films.
Mhm.
Or like I could go and make like I don't know like instruments for someone, and then someone would tell me that's honest work. It's like where do you do that? Because if someone has a really niche instrument, it's more playing around than it is a video game, which is pretty much giving you a function. Like I literally played one recently, which is a realistic plane building game where it's as accurate or if not more accurate than what we were using at university, and people were literally just creating all sorts of weird creations with it. So it's like, what is a video game? You know, they could be used to teach, they could be used to have fun, like they could be used to do tons of
Very
different
true.
stuff. Like one of the people I work with recently, they got like this alternative reality contract to like teach electricians how to do stuff, basically, kind of stuff like that. Like, what is game development? What can it be used for? What is honest work? That's the question, and that's quite a hard question to answer.
I think it's always depends like on the person or the people who are making it, right? And it's always the stories behind those games that are given as a message for the players, in my opinion. And also I feel like people forget that these games should not be like, discussed just when they are successful or when they are at the finish line, but people would have to be supportive and from the very first step, because we are all of us like making from very first steps, right? So in every territory in our lives. So it sucks to see that some people are not supportive or not trying to understand at least what some of us are doing in our lives. So yeah, that's interesting. The thing that there can be a change in the future for that people, even if gaming has become a trend now, but still that more people would understand that it's not just something childish. Like
I find
I
it
do
funny.
think
Yeah, go on.
no, Josh, you.
Just because something is gamified doesn't mean that it's childish, in my opinion.
true.
Because otherwise, people wouldn't watch the football.
I always say this example. I always give the example of Final Fantasy X. I'm not sure if any of you played it, but that's my all-time favorite game. And I always come up with Final Fantasy X to show that game to people who did not understand gaming and just said, okay, games are just shooting, killing, and all that stuff. I remember some of my closer relatives also told me that, okay, games just about shooting stuff and killing people. And I was like, okay, sit down, watch Final Fantasy X, which is about a lot of topics like religion, politics, racism, how to deal with these things, how they are very bad things in our life, also about love, about losing somebody, everything. Like Final Fantasy 10 is, for me, that's why it's a perfect game in my opinion, because it has everything in it, packed with a great story, packed with great messages, and people should learn from them. And I think that a lot of games could be like out there in universities and in schools, for kids and for adults to learn from them, because I think that.
Ironically,
No, go for it. Sorry.
ironically, you said games being all about shooting, but like we should have games in Academy. Ironically, there is a game in Academy right now, but it's literally all about shooting. It's called Spec Ops. It's literally all about shooting, but that's kind of the point of the game. It's a deconstruction of shooters.
True.
But yeah,
And they delisted that game, right? And everyone
yeah,
was sad
yep,
about
that
it.
game has been
Delisted,
that game has been delisted.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
In academic debates, there's this point of talk. I think it's called like steel manning or something, where you prove that you understand the opposition's argument, and sometimes you can understand that argument better than them themselves. So when you're able to achieve that and then produce a piece of media, that's when people say, "Oh wow, this is like extremely good media." You see a lot in films and some video games, like Spec Ops is a great example.
True.
Yeah.
They made you think about those things that you were thinking of, always just wasn't sure about it, right? And you're more mindfuck in your mind after playing that game.
Yeah,
Even
definitely.
Yeah, and it's weird that these games are being cancelled by people and by after that by publishers as well. It's like I'm always mentioning this example of The Last of Us 2, that people were like, threatening the writer, the author of the game, that they made the choice to kill, spoiler time, Joel.
No worries. We all know.
And it's very sad to see. And when I first started my Dev Live show, and the idea came from this, that I feel like a lot of people out there are willing to put their hate on the table from their real life issues. And like you said before, they are not even trying to, grow as a person first, but they are, consumers of these media, of games and forms of art, and they're sitting down angry by their real life issues and hating on the choices of the developers, although they are people too, and they are, like I said, getting their messages out to the people to help them grow as a person. And some of the people do not understand it, or do not want to take these messages and just hate, and that's very stressful to see. And there's very, like, for me, it's very sad to see also that people or players are like that. So yeah,
I do agree because I actually genuinely do believe that right now in gaming, if you look at like the online discourse of gaming, it is far too focused on honestly inconsequential things. This is a two-sided This is a two-sided issue, by the way. It's not just the audience. I want to note the developers are also politically inclined. So an audience is politically inclined, and that's wrong. I will say it's wrong. The audience shouldn't be sitting there like, I don't want to see this kind of stuff. But the developer also shouldn't be sitting there and going, I don't want to make a game with these kinds of things or without these kinds of things. This did not happen in The Last of Us 2. I want to know that. I disagreed with the direction of that game, not because of its politics, but I just didn't like the way the story went.
Okay,
that's
but hopefully you did not went to the house of the author and threatened him, right? So that's the case. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's okay to not like
that takes it way too
but...
far. That takes it way too far.
Yeah, exactly.
You can disagree with the direction of something without getting violent.
Yeah, true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about also your game. So what kind of goals do you want to achieve?
It's getting dark. Mind if I switch on the lights?
It's okay.
Yeah. My apologies.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the current direction in terms of audio and sound, at least, I can talk about this just as a kind of bridge. I'm trying to really evoke what's going on in the story, and it's quite an interesting story because it's a boomer shooter. But it's not your typical boomer shooter. Like, we have a horror aspect, and we have a kind of Spec Ops, the line was mentioned a lot. We have a kind of thoughtful aspect, like
Mindfuck
you are
story. I can see
exactly
that.
like it's sci-fi, it's gritty
in a good way, of course. Don't get me wrong. Yeah,
it's all these things, but then, like, personally myself, I actually listen to the Minecraft soundtrack. That's all I listen to. But I produce really aggressive music. Why is that? Like, it's kind of like you need other stuff, you need other inputs, and you kind of need that like polar opposite in many ways. So when we're making this, I'm trying to basically encapsulate a lot of that kind of dread, and I'm trying to actually bait the player into enjoying the game when they're going to be doing questionable things, because it's a
Yeah.
shooter. Like
Okay.
if you
Yeah.
if you understand where that's kind of going,
It's a very cool
that's
game
kind of like the
design
goal.
of yours,
Yeah.
making the music.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Who? Me or the one above?
I was looking up.
Okay. In that case,
Sorry.
Mike.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was saying I haven't fully started on the game, the dev side of things. I'm still learning my way around the Unreal Engine.
Okay.
But for what I understand of the vision as a gameplay designer, currently the point is to empower the player via the violence of what they're capable of doing as the primary protagonist. It is a boomer shooter, so there is a standard set of rules to follow. But from what I understand, it's kind of like to sort of like convey the what's the right word? What's the right word? It's not. Let me try. Is to convey the player character's rage or willingness to go far in their violence to tear apart their enemies. Maybe not in the way of the Doomslayer, but
Okay.
it's via just how far they would go with their gunfire, with their weaponry, and we show that in the reactions with the enemies. It's
Yes.
kind of like how that would go.
Okay.
So-
So as a game designer, what do you think? Why people like these boomer shooters that much?
Yeah. So, when it comes to boomer shooters, right? A majority of the people, what they like is the extreme precision
Okay.
and the high pace, fast movement.
Okay.
I will say, ours is a lot closer to something like Half-Life or
Okay.
Halo than to something like Doom or Quake, right? There's a limited amount of weapons. There's a limited amount of movement speed. It looks very retro in the style of those old school games. And it is hyper violent like those old school games because despite what a lot of people say, I do believe that Half-Life and Halo were the times where shooters were actually trying to dumb down the violence rather than bring it up. But in our case, it's going to be a deconstruction of that. Like I said, our character is going to be that kind of massively super powerful character, like for example the Doomslayer or such. But it's not, and it's meant you are meant to enjoy the gameplay, but it's also the main drive of the game is going to be to make you question whether you are as morally righteous as you think you are every time that you are basically blowing
Nice.
people to
Okay.
pieces. Every time that you're basically blowing people to
Nice.
pieces, you're going to be sitting there like, yeah, it's fun, but wow, I don't feel good doing this.
Do you feel like
know?
there will be also an answer for that questioning at some point?
I
in the game?
definitely feel. I
Or it's
definitely
spoiler
feel.
time.
Well, okay, so yeah, I was about to say spoiler time. So I'm not going to say how the game ends. I'm not going to say what the answer is to that statement.
Okay.
There's a lot more to it than just the gameplay related side of does it feel good to kill people, right? There's also a story related side to that. It's a complex and morally gray situation that you're caught in,
Okay.
with lots of shades of black on all sides.
Okay.
And that's the kind of storytelling I do all the time. I should note, there's like rarely good guys in my stories. And you're probably by the end of it not going to have a clear feeling of how to feel about the situation you were trapped in. And that is definitely the vibe that I want to go for.
Okay. So do you think all of you think like that's the main, or that would be the main message of your game, that people should question their own choice?
It's definitely going to be an anti-war and anti-violence game. I'll say that.
I see.
But it's going to be incredibly violent, and the violence being fun is part of the message.
Okay. What about you
Yeah.
guys? What do you think about that?
I mean, for me, at least from like kind of how I want to paint the emotions in this game,
Okay.
it's quite extreme. So if you've ever played Wolfenstein New Order, you understand that there's a lot of really cool music.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like the stuff that music is supposed to be addressing and kind of accompanying, isn't something you really want to glorify. So essentially, it's like, why do you enjoy this soundtrack? When like a lot of the time it's ridiculous like distortion and really kind of bleak, kind of horror-esque industrial kind of things, why do you enjoy the soundtrack overall and think it's a really good soundtrack overall, and you don't just enjoy those random kick-ass tracks? Like, I wouldn't listen to that soundtrack on the New Order without listening through the whole thing, because I think that doesn't do it justice. And it's really about, as I said, trying to get those poles together and trying to actually show comparison, because I feel like that's how, especially if you've got a single player driven game, getting understanding the emotions and the kind of highs and lows of it
Okay.
are going to be where you are, where you can really carry that along.
Thank you. Okay, and what about you?
On my end, it's primarily the whole thing about the message. I can only say that I'm gonna try to achieve it by, again, just empowering the player. It's how I go about it. But
Okay.
the logistics of the message of the whole anti-violence, anti-war thing, that will mostly come down as to Jarv and Neos and their directions, how they convey it via the story as well as the music. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to make the player have fun. That's my job. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to make
It's
them feel bad about it, that's on you too.
yeah, it's definitely a direction thing. It's
Mhm.
definitely a director and a designer thing from that perspective. How do you make somebody feel bad about blowing somebody's head off, right? How do you do that without it also being like fun? Because it's gonna be fun, of course.
Sure.
Yeah.
How many games do you do this in, and then you think it's kick ass, right?
Yeah, but
So how do you make it?
I believe that. Sorry for interrupting you. I believe that fun
No.
can be also at the same level with reading out the message from a game.
Yeah,
At least in with my opinion,
If I
because
have to be honest, that is my fear, is that the message is completely lost and people are just like, no, honestly, this is the way it should be. I love killing these evil alien bastards. I love blowing brains and heads out, etc. And I'm like, okay, you completely missed the point of the story.
but
That's
that's
a
very nice of
big
you.
worry.
Like, it means that you
Yeah,
really care about the message to be
yeah, I
understood
do.
by the players, and
I do.
sorry for that. I appreciate that you guys are wanting this message to give for the players, because, like, especially nowadays, we can use that message, all of us, and it's very
Yeah.
important. And that's why, like, I'm always saying, that's why I love these dev shows of mine, and people are joining with me, like you guys, that you're such a talented people here, and realizing
Thank
the
you.
problems of our world, and willing to take the first step, because, like you also said, not everyone is willing to do the first step and stand up and say their honest opinion about real life issues. And that's the case. I believe that we all should do that, and we, even if we are not making games, but with other
I mean, for me at least, it's quite close to home because I did aerospace. Obviously, you can go into making planes and stuff. I actually have fighter planes plastered up all over my wall.
Okay.
So I love design. I love technology. I love all this stuff. I love to see what they can do. But the thing is, for me, it's like this thing of I don't like what they're used for
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
That's why I stick them up there, because it's got a dual meaning. It's like
Yeah.
I
Sadly.
don't like the end results and seeing what they do.
Yeah.
So that's why I look at them and I see this amazing like pinnacle of mathematical design. But then it's like, what is it getting used for? It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
True.
great, we just,
True.
you know. It reminds me, I was looking at one of the job postings for being an engineer, and one of them was literally labeled lethality engineer. So I was just like, oh, I get it. Like, that's literally the job you'd have if you applied for that. Obviously, I didn't apply for it, but that was kind of like one of those moments where I was scrolling through them and I was like, if I was just mindlessly clicking, just trying to get work, I might end up in a situation where I'm like, I don't know, that Boeing person, like whistleblowing or something like that. Like, you need to think about what you're doing, especially when it comes to these things. A lot of money and a lot of kind of things are involved in that.
Don't go down on us now, George. We need you.
Oh gosh, yeah, it wouldn't be good.
Yeah, I might be the guy
Why?
who's whistleblowing.
Why?
Yeah,
Don't be afraid to
five
be
years
honest.
ago.
Like, it's not a bad
Five
thing.
years ago, this guy said he might be whistleblowing. So he's probably the whistleblower we had just now.
Why did
Take the shot.
So you mentioned the money and being honest. Why do you think, like, people are so scared about being honest, and they are going just for the money and not being creative and helping the world to get to a better place? Because, like, I feel
mean-
like sorry, I was just wanting to say that because we all suffered in some way, right? We had losses in our life. We got bullied in school for any of the reason that we got bullied for, and I feel like, or we got bullied in work and job places, and we lost friends or family members, and I feel like that should make us understand that we have to grow as a human, but not just we, but we have to, help others as well. And what do you think that people are not, picking up this mentality, or why, or what could be the case behind that?
In case of game development, why
Not
people
not,
are
not just game development, not just game development.
okay.
Like your friend and team member was talking here
Okay.
about being honest, and also like people care about more of the money and not what they do with the power of their knowledge. Like they are willing to kill people, but and it's not like it's going to into politics. It's without going to it. Like why do you think like people do not care? You guys care. Me, I'm caring too, but there are a lot of people who do not care on the daily basis. And why? Why is that?
I mean, if you told me that you can go and work on this one part of a plane which is going to be used for the next 100 years, 50 years, whatever, you'll only get to work on that one part, we'll pay you a bunch, you'll get a massive fat pension, and then you can just go sit in your nice house out in the countryside for the rest of your life, most people would take that. The problem is now, because we live in the digital age and you can see the results of everything instantaneously. This kind of period, especially throughout the 60s and 50s, is where people were highly motivated to want to go and do these like aeronautics and develop these technologies for what they see as good. All those viewpoints are now being challenged, and in many cases, that's kind of like the justice of it. And I think people want to follow the money just because it's so close to their worldview and what they would find easy to just accept. Like they could just keep drinking the same pot of poison over and over again, rather than kind of cutting the snake at its head.
True.
And
also, it's like
I
a
think
very
it's comfort a lot of the time,
close-minded thinking. I believe that like we are living in a world where when we grow up, we get into standard lifestyle that we learn. Like I was always talking about this with other developers as well, that we get into a world as an adult where we have to have money, have house, have girlfriend, boyfriend, kids, a good job that pays good, and that's all. And people forget about like people like us, like you guys, that see the problems, the real issues behind everything. And I think that's very nice, because like I said, I do care, and I do care about like changing the world, and guys like you and developers that I was talking about and I will be talking to, they also care. And that's very nice to see that with games, with forms of art, with media, with movies, with music, we can make a change. Even if just 1K people will listen and 1 million people will listen, even if not all of them will get the message that, like you said, you are afraid of Neo. But yeah.
Yeah, no, but I have that with a lot of my stories, to be honest, because a lot of my stories, they harken in on power fantasy, right?
Okay.
They play on power fantasy because, at the end of the day, a lot of us like power fantasy, but I like power fantasy, and what I like even more is stories of self-reflection. So a lot of the times when you tend to combine those two, what you end up finding out is that power fantasy can lead to some moral quandaries. So I've been heavily inspired by things like Vagabond and Berserk, and those two stories, for example, feature that a lot. There's just these two protagonists who are basically like if they're not the most powerful of their verse, they are in the top 5, right? And what's the story mainly about? It's about how being that strong and murderous, etc., is probably, well, the strong part isn't the problem. It's the murderous and deadly and part that's the real problem. So despite the fact that I think it's pretty dang awesome, the murder shoot kill things in video games, and that it's pretty cool to watch Guts, for example, cleave 7 demons in half. once you get to the meat of those stories, what you do end up finding out is that the kinds of people who are so willing to indulge in power fantasy, literally, so to speak, wouldn't be too good of people. And but that's also a message that gets lost to a lot of Berserk and Vagabond readers. I should note, a lot of people are like, "Man, Guts should go back to being a ravenous beast, basically, like he was back in the beginning of the story." And it's like, if you truly do think that, then you're only here for the violence. And Berserk is much deeper than that. Same with Vagabond. A lot of people are like, "Man, Musashi should go back to being like a wild dog." It's like, okay, but like that would make the story a whole lot worse. I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
True. I remember I was reading a book of Agatha Christie in which she was telling her story. I think it was maybe the very last book of her, where she told that she was very angry at her husband, that he was cheating on her, and she wanted to kill him, actually. But when she was doing the first step of killing him, she stopped, and then she realized that in every one of us, even in the very good people, there is evil. And she wrote a book about it, and it was released. And after her death, a lot of people read it, and it was very interesting to read that such a good person, like she was, writing all these good books, she realized that, okay, I could be a bad person as well, just feeling, anger and being mad at my husband that he left me. It's a very interesting book, actually. If you haven't read, you should. So yeah, it's very interesting. Why violence is so interesting for a lot of people? What do you guys think? The question goes to all of you.
What was the question?
So
why is violence interesting?
Yeah, why is violence interesting for people?
I like to take this viewpoint that you are in a constant like scale of violence at all times, and you are kind of like on a meter. So a lot of the time you'll see people who are very cool, calmed, and collected. That's why I like to call internalized violence, because they're sitting there like, I could lash out at this person,
True.
or I could.
They are just not showing their inner truth, right? Yeah.
But their internal monologue is probably like extremely like hard on themselves in places, and these other certain things which they see in other people which they don't like, they probably have very internalized violence. Whereas you could have very externalized violence, where, for instance, someone has a disagreement at a supermarket, and then all hell breaks loose. And then obviously they should probably be arrested for that, especially if the other person isn't provoking them.
And they might be the best person in our life, right? They are not even that evil that we think.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. What about you?
Me? Why people are so interested in violence? I mean, never actually thought about that. Personally, I believe because by nature, I think everybody is violent.
Okay.
Look at any animal on Earth is violent, but just because you're violent by nature, that doesn't mean you always have to be violent.
True. Okay.
Not every single animal is violent. They're only violent when they're they're trying to contest territory from other rivals, or two, they're hunting down prey. In the case of us, we kind of move past the need for violence to an extent. I mean, as evidence shows today, we still are capable of violence.
Yeah, and we still do violence sometimes.
Yeah, we still do it, but we kind of recognize that it's not necessary, and it's kind of like looked down upon, especially when you do it to another fellow man.
True.
And I kind of feel like, in that kind of sense, media or video games can kind of serve as a way or sort of outlet, kind of like that violence to an extent.
Okay.
It's kind of like the same way you'd say when you're doing a sport or you're practicing something at the gym or something. It can be an outlet to kind of like let that energy loose to a certain extent, if you want to ask me from that kind of perspective. It's one of the reasons why I kind of think like video games, or generally a lot of action movies, are famous, because they kind of like let people like kind of like channel or see that violence let loose without having it to hurt other people or stuff as such.
That they might do, they are just not doing, right?
Yeah, obviously not everybody's gonna look at something like a Rambo movie and think about, yeah, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna go to the local store and grab a machine gun and just start gunning down the police. No, they're not gonna do that. But it kind of serves as a bit of a weird outlet to in that way,
I understand you. Yeah. And what about you?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give a take. I believe that a very simple take, I should say. I believe that everything in life requires balance, and I believe that humans innately desire conflict in as much as they desire harmony. I do not believe that any human would be content with consistent harmony forever, and I don't believe they would be content with consistent conflict forever. Conflict doesn't necessarily have to be violence, by the way, but violence is the most direct and easily understandable form of conflict to us humans. Therefore, we are quite obsessed with it. That's my simple take.
Okay, thank you. I was telling you guys, it's like a therapy session. Okay. So, and you mentioned also like going as for the graphics of the game. You mentioned retro style. So, what was the idea behind that? Was it like
I began.
Okay,
No,
sorry.
go on.
No, go for that.
No. Keep. The more I know about the question, the more I can answer it directly.
So I wanted to ask that, was it because like you are respecting your childhood games and that was the case behind that? You wanted to bring those memories out to the players with this retro vibe style of your game?
No, actually. The reason why is quite simply because limitation, time, budget, those things, but also stylization. I like the style. So these four are the main reasons, and this one is the cherry on top. I like the retro style.
Okay.
Yeah. That was it. That was the main reason.
I thought that your friends also are going to answer.
No, it's literally. I mean, I don't really contribute to the visuals, but I recently just asked them, could I have like a wallpaper of this one video they put out, just because I love having that on my other screen when I'm working on music, because it helps me zone in and think about what ambience is going to be there.
And what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly like he said. There's not much else to be said. It's not that deep.
Yeah, it's not that deep in this case.
Okay. And so, as going for the gameplay, you guys mentioned that it's more of a like Half-Life styled gameplay, not like Quake one. So, are you aiming for your game to be very fast or somewhere in between?
Very slow.
Very
slow, like a tank. My idea was you're gonna be like a tank moving around. You can sprint, but even sprinting is gonna feel like you're heavy. I made the animation of sprinting to really give off that lumbering shoulder bumping sound. The footsteps sound heavy. The footstep sound effects we have right now, it's just like
it's trying to make it look like a
walking.
It's trying to basically. I think I can intercept your words here. You're basically trying to make it look like an Astartes.
Yeah, but I think the more accurate. No, actually, more accurately, Fallout power armor. That's what I want. I want a T51 or a T60 kind of power armor vibe, because that's literally the references I gave to my SFX artist. By the way, I was like, "Hey, do you see this scene from the Fallout TV show? Do you see how when they're walking, it's like?" I said, "I want that." That's the footstep sound effects, right? Astartes are still a bit too fast, even for how bulky they are. Yeah.
Okay.
So it really is gonna have to feel like you are just this walking death machine, who not the Slayer necessarily, even though you have a similar output of violence. Not the Slayer necessarily, but more like
Guardian.
Guardian. Guardian is a good one, but they jump too high. You're not going to be jumping in this game, or you can jump, but it's not in order to gain air traversal, so to speak, right? I feel like, what's a good example of a like a really grounded protagonist in a shooter game, guys? I need some help here. Not grounded as in realistic, but grounded as in stuck to the ground, quite literally. You know,
Master Chief from the first Halo 1 and 2.
That's a good one, to be honest. Master Chief from the first Halo is a good one. But you got to feel even heavier than
The
him.
very first Battlefield games, also Bad Company 2.
Have you guys ever played the mission in Wolfenstein New Order where you have like a giant mech?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Honestly, mech, that's probably the best way. Even though it's not a mech, you probably are gonna feel like a mech.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what's the very beginning of the story? So why the main hero starts to kill everything that comes to?
If you've seen our announcement teaser,
Okay.
then I don't know if you have.
I did.
But
yes.
okay. Well, then you can see the announcement teaser is also going to be the opening cutscene. So whenever you start the game,
Okay.
before you even get the title screen, that's what you're going to see.
Okay.
Right. So basically, this planet that our main character is on, and our main character is a trooper, is under attack. And when it says at the end, "Help is on the way," that's the trooper logo. That's basically you have been assigned to help people, right? You're going to find out the situation is a whole lot more dire
Quick question
than that.
before you say
Go on.
that. Have you guys played the game on PlayStation 3 called Haze?
Haze, I've heard of it.
I have not played Haze, but I've heard quite a bit about it.
That game has a very similar story and very similar lore to your game and to Spec Ops: The Line. The game main story took place just like you mentioned your game, that they appeared to be the good guys, and they were ejected by this nectar, so-called nectar, which made them, being able to be so powerful that they can kill every soldier going against them in the war. And the main hero realized that all those soldiers on his side that are not being able to use nectar anymore to inject into themselves, the company will kill them. And when he realizes it, he started to think of it more, and he will join the other team and go against them, go against their own. So it's a very interesting story. You should guys pick that game up if you
Oh
can.
my goodness, I just instantly realized what gameplay I was thinking of when I was trying to describe it. Even though you don't play as a mech in that game, I don't know if you guys have ever played Resistance.
I have played Resistance.
Yeah.
Resistance was my thing when I was a kid. That is very similar to what I'm trying to aspire to be, with, of course, the added. I mean, Resistance was brutal, but this game is going to have mechanics to showcase brutality, so to speak. But Resistance is very similar to the movement we're trying to get here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys also playing for environmental storytelling?
Yes. Well, you're going to. There's environments, all right. I don't know about how much you can glean from it besides how messed up of a situation it is that you're in, though. The environment is basically meant to emphasize that you are in the worst position possible.
Okay.
But
that's also a story to tell, right?
That is also storytelling. Yes, that is storytelling.
Okay.
That's why I said there is environmental storytelling.
Okay. And so, what could you say as for the core gameplay elements? What core gameplay elements or pillars would you state that your game will have?
Okay, so when it comes to core gameplay elements, as in mechanics that we really want to harken in on, the main mechanic that I want to focus on is the delimbing mechanic.
Okay.
Now, the delimbing mechanic is basically you're going to be firing at your opponents, right? And depending on where you're shooting at them and what health they are at, it's going to delimb them. So if you are shooting their arm, you might take off their entire arm. This is generally gameplay beneficial because, for example, or at least gameplay beneficial, is in beneficial to your character's survival, because if you're shooting off somebody's shooting arm, they can't shoot anymore. They're also quite stunned by this. If you're shooting off somebody's leg, they're going to have a very hard time making their way towards you. Stuff like that, right? Sometimes you can get people into a state where they are, as I like to call it, executable. It depends on how many limbs you've taken off. I do have some footage of this if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. That brings up another question for me to you. That's, are you also aiming to something similar that Shadow of War and Shadow of Middle Earth game had, like a Nemesis system where there is, you mentioned cutting off an arm of a soldier and they will like being able to communicate that, okay, fuck yourself, my arm is, down or something like that? Because if you remember those games, they were open world games and they had this AI which could remember and react to every, thing that happens to their, body.
I'll be honest, that is way too complex for us. We are making a very short game here. We do not have the team or the budget to implement a system like that. But the main thing that the delimbing system is here to do is it's meant to drive home that feeling of moral ambiguity to what you are doing. So I'm going to send you a couple of the a couple of the delimbings that I've already have
Could
right
you share
now.
because that would be easier if you would download.
Oh yeah, of course. I can share. No problem. Let me just open it up on my browser. Up.
Let me know if
I need to stream it, right?
Yeah, you do.
All right, here you go. Up. So there you go. I got one more in here somewhere.
Okay.
Let me just grab that.
I think I saw that on your Twitter, right?
You probably did.
Yeah.
You've probably seen this one on my Twitter.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find another one. I've got one more. I know that. Yeah. There you go. This one.
Okay.
And I've got this one.
Okay.
So there's actually very few games that I can think of off the top of my head that focus heavily on a system like that. Doom does come to mind, funnily enough. Doom Eternal comes to mind with the weakness system. But when it comes to the weakness system, I will say the demons don't seem to be two-faced every time I take their arms off.
The thing with Doom Eternal is the weakness system works best for non-humanoid demons.
Exactly. And I will also say a whole lot of the
Bulletstorm also had a feature similar to this, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah.
Bulletstorm. I did not play Bulletstorm. I did not play it. Reason why I'm mentioning it is because these animations are clearly meant to do a little bit more than just convey the player advantage that you might get from shooting off a limb. It's meant to show like this is a horrifying act that you have committed on this. Well, it is an enemy troop, but on this character, you have committed a pretty horrifying act.
So you could say that it's also like an environmental storytelling.
Yeah, so it is a form of environmental. It is a form of environmental storytelling. Yeah, and these animations are technically unfinished in engine. They will look slightly different because of the fact that there's going to be some emitters added onto it, some retro effects and all that. But this is what we got right now to show for that. I think I've got one more, but it would take a little long to find it.
Okay, let me know.
Yeah. So yeah.
During that time, I will also ask you. So your game is called like Part 1. So I'm assuming that there will be more parts to this game, right?
There will be, yes. Okay. So I am planning to make this. All of these games are going to be really short.
Okay.
Right. I'm thinking 30, 40 minutes. Okay. That's it. That's my time guesstimate. They're all short games. Okay. Now they're going to be in Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, Part 4. Every part is going to be disconnected. They all take place in the same universe, but they don't take place with the same character.
Okay.
Right? The reason why is so that in these 4 parts, you can see different aspects of BLOODSTAR's universe and how the rampant war economy has basically changed humanity and humanity's foes. And to see all the various different aspects of human life in the year 3899.
Okay.
You know?
I see. And so what platforms are you aiming to release?
As of now, I only am aiming for itch and Steam
Okay.
because I have no idea how console publishing works. I've got no idea. And I also don't think it would be very easy to publish a 30, 40-minute game on console, I think. Yeah.
I can tell you, even just the audio gets a bit more complicated as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine it would be quite difficult to publish on console. So right now, PC platforms and specifically Steam and itch is where I am planning to put my fingers.
Okay. And so what is the release date of the first part that you are aiming for?
We are hoping to have it released in around 3 months.
Okay, nice. That's very close.
Yeah.
Then. Okay. Are you also planning to make a demo for it? Like,
This game is already so short that I don't think there's going to be a demo.
okay.
I might go back on that. I might go back on that decision. I may decide to release the first 10 minutes of gameplay.
Okay.
But for a game that's only 30 to 40 minutes, it feels like it would be redundant to make a demo.
Okay. So here comes the question. If you will release all 4 parts of this game, are you guys planning to still stick together and make games in the future together? You can see that in the future?
That is not my decision. So, I heard a yeah already. So, hey.
I can personally, I can see it.
Okay.
I can see us making games in the future, but I was saying, will we after this immediately? Now we don't know.
Yeah, maybe not instantly, but I am hoping that after we release these 4 parts, that we just remain a team over at Studio One.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I'm hoping that by that point, I may have acquired some more funds to expand the team and to give everybody a more appropriate reward. Because right now, the biggest reward is my greatest thanks. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Would you rather publish your game as you guys as a team, or would you rather go with the publisher in the future?
Okay, so here's how I see it, right? If a publisher were to approach me today or tomorrow and say that they're willing to fund my game, I would take the offer, most likely. I would take the offer. It would be a massive help.
Even if
and I could
it would mean to you that you have to cut out some of very best ideas.
Oh, no, hold up. No. If that's the case, then no. I'm sorry. If I have to compromise on my vision of this game, then the publisher can suck it.
Okay. And what about
if the publisher is like we like the game, but it's just a little bit too violent, then I'm like, well, you know what, the door is there, you can't.
Do you guys agree with him on that point?
Yeah. You could have different types of publisher. Like you could have a publisher which is more marketing focused. They'll take less of a cut of the game, so they won't influence the development as much.
Sure, I agree with.
You see a lot more indie niche kind of stuff, even some kind of stuff which you wouldn't expect from a lot of those types of publishers, and that's mainly just because the studio itself is established.
True.
But yet again, once something gets marketed out there and a lot of interest in it, it's like that same thing with comfort. Like I was saying, some people just want to choose the comfortable option. A lot of the time, they make their first set of games, they've already said what they want to say, and then they just want to become a manager. That's just the way it is.
True. And what do you think?
Yeah.
No, it's pretty much the exact same thing. Personally, if a publisher comes over and it's the kind of publisher that you get they manage the publishing rights on, let's say they help us publish the game on stuff like PlayStation or Xbox or something of the sorts and all other platforms, and that they require a compromise of the game's vision, then there are issues that for the most part we can't really work with when it comes to that.
No, the game needs to be my unadulterated, uncompromised look of what the game is meant to be, and if it's not that, then
I love that.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's a little different if they require certain commitments from you, or if there's some of the things they're asking, some of the compromises don't conflict with what we're aiming to make out of the game. Then sure, we can work something out. But if it conflicts with what we're making, then no.
That would be fine in my opinion. If they're like, okay, so even like being even scaling back just a tiny bit and being like, okay, so we like this, and these mechanics are completely fine, but in this cutscene, maybe this shot here is just a little bit too egregious. We can just move this slightly. I might be willing to compromise on that maybe, and that's a big maybe, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But if it's like, oh, this mechanic is so violent, and it's like, okay, well, what's also about to be really brutal is this denial. I mean, that's what's about to be really brutal.
I mean, there's a difference in, like, obviously, if you want to publish in a lot of other countries, some countries have a censorship laws on certain things. There's a difference between wanting to publish in more countries and wanting to, like, change it so it's more market friendly. When they change it to make it more market friendly, that's them trying to make their own job easier so they don't get a nasty article written about them and they have to cover it up.
True.
That's true.
Exactly.
That's true.
It's true. Exactly.
Do have a little bit of gameplay here,
Okay, let's
if you're
see.
interested. This is very early stuff.
Okay. Thank you, by the way, for showing that.
No problem. I always like to show what we have.
Nice. But you also sent me some screens of it. Yeah, I remember that.
I did.
Nice.
I did. So we have legs. I decided I wanted the leg because, like, some of my favorite things was looking down in FPSs and checking if I have legs.
Okay.
So I decided I want legs in my game.
Okay. We can see the food job. Oh yeah,
So-
you can see he's slow that you have mentioned. Yeah, nice.
Yeah. I have made the sprinting animations, but
Okay.
they are being a little bit annoying in Unreal right now, so I'm still trying to figure that out.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
But this is mostly to showcase the environment, the aesthetic, and the aesthetic, and the pace of movement, basically.
Okay. I cannot wait
Yeah.
to actually see the whole game. I cannot wait.
I'm
So
glad. I'm glad.
so as for we haven't mentioned the topic of like I have two more questions. So the
Yeah,
first one would be also again back to more personal question. Were there times when you guys weren't agree with each other and had like very harsh discussions with each other?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay. Hold up.
Was it like
Let me
perfect
add some
synergy for
nuance.
the whole time of the developing process?
Let me add some nuance. There are members of the team that I've had disagreements with, but never been harsh with. I have never been harsh with anybody. I've been critical sometimes,
Okay.
but I've never been like, no, it must be like this, etc. I have outright stated to some people like, hey, I can't use this.
Okay.
I just can't do it. It's not part of the vision.
They understand
right?
it?
If it's not part, they did understand it, although it took it a little bit badly. But that's okay because I found other jobs that they could do that they could, and things that we could use, and because of that, we ended up still having a very good team synergy.
Nice.
Right? I have had to. Not for any of the members here present here. For some members, I have had to go behind the scenes and talk between them because apparently there was some beef here and there, and I was just like, okay, listen, you two need to understand. Even if you two don't like each other, you need to understand right now that this is not about any of you two. This is bigger than that. This is a team right here.
Nice.
So if you can put that past each other, you can shake hands, you can look each other in the eye, and you can say that whatever happened in the past is behind you and there's water under the bridge, and you can stay. Whoever disagrees with that is going to have to go.
Okay, nice.
And they ended up both agreeing, and right now the team synergy is basically perfect.
Okay. What about you guys?
I've never noticed any of what Neo's on about. Like, that's probably before I got majorly involved.
No, it's behind the
Yeah.
scenes. You guys never
it's
noticed.
behind the
You
scenes.
guys
Yeah.
never noticed. It is something that I would get to hear from certain members. I'm not naming anybody
Okay.
because
yeah,
that's
sure. That's
not good.
understandable. Yeah.
That's not good. But that's something I would get to hear from certain members, me personally, in DMs, and I would have to bring these two people together, have to talk with them, and I have to go, listen, guys, you all need to understand, this is a team. All right, we are working on this together, and anybody who can't understand that synergy is gonna have to leave. You guys cannot get into fights with each other. And ever since then, I've had to do it 3 times now with 3 different members. Ever since then, the team has just been moving smoothly. So yeah.
And what about you?
Same. I haven't noticed any kind of conflicts or anything like that. It's been behind the scenes. I haven't noticed anything so far. It's been working out great.
That means I must be doing my job well. If nobody
Yeah,
noticed,
that's what I wanted to say. That
if
you're
nobody's noticed,
good
yeah.
to keep the team together, and that's very important job as well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, what was the very favorite part about like making this game so far? Question.
My favorite part of my favorite part of making the game was let me think. Well, my favorite part of making the game so far has been, I'm not gonna lie, I love sitting in call with my homies, because not all the time am I with the entire studio. I'm usually in call with only 3 or 4 people.
You
from
guys
the
live close together,
studio.
by the way, or close to each other? Sorry.
No. We live countries apart, but I'm usually in call with 3 or 4 people. This
Are you
usually
planning
includes
to meet each other, by the way, in the future?
maybe,
Possibly.
maybe. Could.
Definitely call. Yeah.
I'm in call usually with Mike, my web designer who is not here, my lead programmer who's also not here, and those are the ones. And what I love to do when I'm with them in call is, well, first of all, I love showing them what I've done for the day. I'm just like, hey, check it out. This is the new model. This is the new textures, etc. You know. But what I also love to do is one of my favorite things to do, to be honest, is to, so now and again we joke around about the game, and honestly, that helps fuel my motivation to keep making the game. Is when we can have fun with it, because this is a pretty bleak game, right? But we managed to make some joy out of it when we're in call. We managed to bring a whole lot of fun
That's
to
what
it.
matters, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. I've also assured people that even though this game is bleak, we will find moments to put a little bit of sunshine in this universe, just some funny Easter eggs and jokes here and there. But that should never become the focus. I've seen a lot of games that go too in on the Easter eggs and then it all falls behind.
True.
And we're not about that.
Okay. What about you guys?
Yeah. Pretty much the same. It's but for the most part I've been mostly helping out at the side with the lead programmer, but most of the fun I had currently developing the project was when we got into call, we memed about the game, made the jokes, you know. And yeah, I can say that was really the best parts, besides, kind of like seeing, because I was programming before on Unity.
Okay.
And so the lead programmer, it's kind of like his first end programming on Unreal, and Unreal and Unity are different, but they kind of like share the same rules. So kind of like to a certain extent, seeing him struggle to figure out certain things, I don't know, in a certain way, does that make me mean? Seeing a guy suffer coding made me feel a little bit happy. See, like, yes, you're suffering just like I did.
It's misery loves company.
That was the motivation again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, misery loves company.
Okay.
I mean, I find a lot of the time, audio integration, for instance.
Okay.
What software do you use to integrate audio in games? Anyone know?
No,
I've got no idea.
That's my exact point. Like, it's so niche that there's no real tutorials for most stuff on how to do it. Like, there are, but let's say you want to do a certain genre and then you want to add a certain intro which does a certain thing and sounds a certain way, like in your head. There's no tutorials on that. There's tutorials on how to like get any generic music into a game, or any generic like gunshot sound, footstep sound, something like that. But there's never like the specifics.
The reason behind that, the case could be that a lot of people do not want to share their own very own style and knowledge, right?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of musicians are very, very territorial.
True.
This is why when I work on other projects, especially when I work with a lot of other musicians, I basically, as soon as I join the project, I say the music and the sound belongs to the project. It doesn't belong to me. And as soon as I make that abstraction, I can work on it to the best of the ability. Because at that point, it's not about me and my ego. It's about the end product and ensuring that not only does it sound good, but there's also a nice story to tell afterwards, because how you make the music is also as important as the end result of the music.
Yeah. I imagine you could probably have some dope interviews at some point where you're just like, yeah, so this is how I came up with this, etc. Kind of similar to what we're seeing Mick doing right now. If you haven't, you probably have seen that. Mick right now is doing all
I've
these
seen all of them,
interviews
yeah.
where Mick right now is doing all these interviews where he's talking about how much fun he had making Doom music. And then also the story behind
Let me
like the
check that
studio's
out after
protection.
our interview. Send me.
Yeah,
kinda
it's
long.
great. It's
Yeah.
great. It's great. Yeah,
Um,
I'll send you some links.
The fun
Okay.
fact, the reason why he brings up McGorn so quickly is because I have literally reverse engineered all of his hardware in software.
Okay.
So I'm like I don't like to over like step my mark, but if
I'm
anyone
grabbing a quick glass of
is trying to
something
learn how
drink.
to
Okay.
make the music in the style of Doom, they should probably come to me, because like I'm pretty much the knowledge base on how to create the sounds. Not necessarily all the niche stuff and the niche gear and stuff, but like I've created so many communities and servers around it, the Doom actual like music and stuff. And I'm essentially running like this open forum kind of Discord server where all these musicians come together, and it's built in a way where people find it
That's very
productive,
nice of you, by
healthy,
the
and
way. That's
can
very
learn.
nice of
Yeah.
you.
I think if you try and make a style, and any style, you can't make it a thing without having a community to back it. And as soon as you make a sound, you can have someone else trying to make that sound as well, especially if it kicks off and does well.
Sure.
So you kind of have to, as a musician, you have to forfeit the fact that it's your own style.
That's what I call
Because
false knowledge, right? So
yeah,
there are these false prophets without, touching the Bible side of things, like these false people who are giving out false knowledges, They are learning
and that's
something very similar to that, and even if they do not have the real knowledge of that music, they will give out like a knowledge and give assets to people on all those crazy stuff behind that.
Yeah,
exactly. Like I remember I've got a ton of like assets for music and stuff, which I just send to my friends when we co-produce, because I mean there's not against any laws to share your assets which you buy, especially if you're working with
True.
someone. And a lot of people, they're super protective. They're like, oh they're gonna steal my sound, they're gonna do this, that, the other. I'm just like, the majority of really popular musicians, if they produce their own music and they're not just some like front singer, um, you know, they do streams where they show questions, and the money never comes from the music you make. The money comes from teaching other producers how to make that same music. It literally comes from teaching people, because everyone can be a musician, or learn music, or learn an instrument, or to a certain degree.
It's just a
I'm
different
saying
level,
that
right?
in, like,
What they
at
know.
different levels.
Yeah.
And a lot of people call themselves a musician. A lot of people even call themselves a professional musician. But there's so many tiers to it,
True.
to the point where you want someone who's a game composer who can integrate audio and music. You're not finding many. You are not finding many, because it requires this overlap between kind of like STEM and programming and logic, and instrumental ability and production knowledge, and
True.
interpreting
But
briefs
I
is a
think
very big
it's
thing.
true for every topic, like not
Yeah.
just music, right? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think like the case or the problem could be behind that people are not willing to take the risk and get the full knowledge? They just want very easy success.
That's the thing. I've been asked by so many people, like, because I have this big list and I make all these diagrams for people, basically telling them, like, look, you can do it for free if you just know what you're doing. If you just learn, this is the most concise way to learn it. Please just learn it, and it's a decent amount. You need to understand what the effects do. Train your ears up. Ear training is a very big part of it. But then the problem is, people would rather just pay $20 to have a little button that makes sounds for them. Like, how do you compete with that? Like, how do you compete with that?
Yeah,
It's difficult.
exactly. Yeah.
And that's why I say you can make money from it, especially making software and plugins.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's very interesting, you saying this, because I always believe that a good mentorship is very important for everyone. Even if you have talent in something that could grow as your with your dreams, you need a mentor who has had the ability, to have
Yeah,
this knowledge.
every successful musician I've seen who isn't just some like front vocal singer for something, who like is a producer basically, every single one I've seen has a community mindset. I've not seen a single one who's
Sure.
completely selfish.
And also they understand people.
Yeah, exactly.
They are making the music for the people, right? And yeah.
If you want to have a crowd in front of you, if you want to have people work with you, collaborate, and you want to get those remix opportunities, you want to get those like co-produce stuff on songs, you need to have good people skills, and that's just it at the end of the day.
Sure. That's very nice of you saying that, by the way. I'm happy for you. Okay, we touched a lot of topics with all three of you, and is there anything that we haven't mentioned and you would like to talk about?
I mean, we went through quite a bit here. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope,
I'm not
of course,
sure.
you don't mind that I ask some personal questions on the way.
No, of course not. That makes it more interesting, right?
Thank you.
No, I don't think I can come up with anything that I'm thinking like, oh, I hope he's gonna ask this necessarily or something.
Okay.
Same here.
What about you?
I can't think of any other question, honestly.
Okay. And what about the musician, composer?
I'm cool to just kind of wrap it up. I think we've covered enough, so anyone who's watching this, or if it gets clipped, could go back and understand how we made the game, or the thoughts behind it, and hopefully learn something.
Thank you. Okay. Are you down to answer some community questions? I know it's very late at my place. It's almost 10 p.m.
Sure.
But if they are not sleeping,
sure. No, I am.
Sure.
I'm down to answer some community questions.
Thank you. Okay, so guys and girls on the stream, let us know. Like I'm always saying, lurkers, speak up, and let me know. Let me know if there is anything that you would like to know. Now is the chance.
Let's see.
Minnie is asking, how many hours do you play together if you do? She's asking it in Hungarian.
Video games?
Yeah, video games, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, so I usually play with Mike and my web designer and my lead program. I usually play games with them, right? Probably 2 to 3 hours. Well, maybe not every day, but
a day or
2
a
to
week?
3 hours. No, maybe not every day, but 2 to 3 hours every 2-3 days or so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
And that's usually throughout the middle of the night because in the day we're busy.
Okay.
No, it's pretty much the exact same thing. It's we play together. It's usually around 2 to 3 hours by. Maybe we play together mostly 2, maybe sometimes 3 times a week. Again, depends. But if it's not that, then we're either busy doing our own things, or maybe we're playing our own little games independently. Yeah.
I always try to find the time to play together and have these, fun times together.
We do.
Nice.
Sometimes it comes in organically, or maybe we plan for it. But it's mostly just organic. Like, you guys want to play this real quick? Sure.
I see.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I mean, I don't normally play with these guys, but to be fair, I'm normally off playing like a lot of different either like flight sim games, or I'm very into strategy games, for instance. So there might be a bit of like a genre clash, but in terms of like,
what's your favorite one?
A strategy game, Wargame Red Dragon is really good, because of how close it is to real kind of like military strategy.
Have you also played like the very classic ones like Heroes series and Red Alert series?
Yeah, Command and Conquer. I've unfortunately I haven't played them. I was a StarCraft player for quite a while, but then I had to stop playing because that game got so competitive over time.
Okay. I see. Minnie is saying that if you guys are smiling, you get very cute faces.
Thank you, Minnie.
Thank you for
I
Oh,
appreciate
alright,
that.
good.
I
Nice,
appreciate
thanks,
that.
thanks.
Yeah, nice. Okay, and what games do you guys play together? What multiplayer games, co-op games, both?
We tend to play co-op games.
Okay.
Mhm.
So games where we have to work together to achieve a goal. We
Okay.
like Lethal Company, Ready
Nice.
or Not. I know Mike and my web designer play Overwatch a lot.
Okay.
Stuff like that.
I
Have you
see.
played Chain Together?
Oh, the
Chain
new
Together.
game. They haven't played it, but I got it.
Oh,
Is it good? I've never heard of
Fun little
it.
thing. It's a
it
fun little game.
like
Oh, okay.
just the principle of the game
Mhm.
is so good that the fact it's an asset flip doesn't really matter,
Yeah,
basically.
Okay. In
Very,
that case,
and it's
very
very
core
cheap.
ideas,
yeah.
right?
It's also very cheap.
Great
Yeah.
ideas. Yeah.
in that case, we should probably try it out. We should
Mhm.
probably try it out.
And also, what was the other? What was the other question again?
Oh, so there is a question that which one of you can be very hard in a game and very, mad since the game if you're not succeeding at the game? Which one of you out of your three?
Well, now probably me. Yeah. Just based on the difference in reaction to when Mike is playing Tekken and when I'm playing Tekken, it's a very big difference if we lose. I'll put it like that. You can sometimes hear some table slamming, man. I'm not even kidding.
So yeah, it's
I could
probably
go stupid.
it probably goes a bit mad, but in Tekken usually I get
Who do you mean in Tekken, by
what's
the way?
sort of,
Who do you mean?
and for Tekken and fighting, it's a fighting game basically.
Yeah, I know, but who do you mean? Who do you mean?
What do I mean? I mean Brian.
Nice, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I mean, Shin Kazama.
but Ben has got a very basic palette. Picks the main character.
I know. My palette is so basic, but I've been playing Jin ever since I was a kid, so I ain't stepping away from my main anytime.
So you
soon.
started to say something, but I interrupted you with "Who do you mean?" question. So what were you starting to say?
Oh, I think I was about to say like main yeah I main Brian, but I used to main Jin until I figured out how to play Brian because I
Okay.
played I used to play Tekken competitively back in the day.
Nice.
Not as
Okay.
much today. Not as much today because I'm being completely honest. I think I'm dog shit at the game. I'm not ready to go to Evo just yet, but I'm still figuring it out.
Okay. Don't stop it if you believe in yourself. Go for that.
Yeah, gotta be legend. Gotta believe in myself. Believe in my heart.
Have
You
you
gotta
been
believe in your
playing
heart,
any
bro.
sports on a competitive level, by the way?
Any
No,
sports?
not on a competitive level.
No,
Not for me.
I have not played at a sports. The closest I came with was swimming back
Okay.
around high school, but
Yeah, I
it's
used to do that
been
as well.
long since then.
I
It's
used to
been long.
do like competitive.
Oh yeah, also
bike racing.
taekwondo.
Yeah.
Mhm. I used to do taekwondo. I also did compete for a bit, but didn't last that long. That was
Let
back
me
when I
know
was
if
much
you go
younger.
for Evo for Tekken. Let me know. Prepare for
Yeah,
that.
yeah. If I can, I'll go for it. If not, then I'll watch it. I'll watch it from here. See how it
Yeah.
goes this year.
Okay.
No, me personally, I don't do any competitive sports. I have done a lot of kickboxing against people in the gym. Me personally, I like to use karate whenever I do that, but I ain't no. I'm not going to what's it called? I'm not going to a tournament or something to step into the ring so I can claim a trophy or anything like
see.
that. I was just training with other people who wanted to do it for fun.
Nice. So how the perspective has changed you as a player being a developer?
I now, whenever I play some of my favorite games, I'm now watching very intently why it is that I like certain things. In this specific case, I love this mod called Brutal Doom. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Brutal Doom basically just Brutal Doom basically just grabs Doom 2 and it revamps the game completely.
Okay.
It's like playing a whole overhaul mod. It's excessively violent, and I love the game. So I watch it and I go, why do I like this game? So what is it about shooting this demon's head off and watching it explode in the Gibson gore that I like? Why? And so what I do is I literally will just go up to a monster and I'll press the trigger and I'll pay like really close attention to what happens after I click the button. I pay close attention to what the gun does. It's like, okay, well, I can see the bullet fly. I can see that it's leaving off a light, and I can see that when it hits the wall, it's giving off an impact shot. I can see that if I shoot a demon, then it doesn't just lose health. It's got an animation for losing health. There's blood effect spraying out, and it makes a noise, right, to showcase pain.
Okay.
If I'm exploding its head, it's got an animation that stands still for a couple seconds. It's got giblets that's basically spraying, and it falls on its knees first. It doesn't immediately fall to its back. It falls on its knees first, then. And that's kind of things that are like, okay, I can animate that. I can do that. So why not? I might as well do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Yeah. Obviously, getting into game development has made me obviously take a much closer look as to how things are done when
Okay.
you achieving how developers go about achieving certain things in games, especially when it comes to combat, because combat is kind of like the thing I like about games, whether it comes to the way they program the AI to respond to certain things, whether it is the small little things when it comes to little subsystems like managing stuns, blocking, and all this kind of stuff. It's a lot of little neatsy little things. It's kind of like you can admire the small little details when you look at these games, like from small little things, from like lighting, pieces of clutter, physics, especially the physics. It kind of changes the way you can kind of look at and appreciate the smaller things, and not take some of these, when the devs go an extra mile to put large pieces of attention to detail to stuff. That's when
Okay.
you start noticing them the most.
Nice. And what about you?
I can tell. I've gone to the point where I can tell if a game uses pre-made sounds or custom-made sounds.
Okay.
And to me, like that fact that I can pick up that they're using that sample pack, which I've already been through myself, is kind of freaky. But it puts into perspective, like a lot of big AAA games, they'll get custom gun recording sounds done or something like that, especially Call of Duty. But then what they do is they take them, they juice them up more so they're more friendly, because a lot of these recordings kind of suck. And they'll even splice them in with some like gun sample packs sometimes just to get it sounding right, just because your manager doesn't care how you got the sound, but you
Well,
have
it
a good
sounds
sound
good.
for something. It sounds good. The rest of the team doesn't really care. So that's like witnessing that has gotten really interesting, because it makes you realize that people will homebrew engines, gameplay, all this stuff, but that same homebrewed like engine, gameplay models and everything, they just use a sound asset pack, and I'm just like, well, you know. And then I'll go to the other end and also do like these indie titles, or especially a lot of like the older PS1, PS2 games, and it's like they have to load onto memory a specific amount of sounds or something like that, and their own. Like I recently did research on the like the Doom sounds and why they are the MIDI soundtrack, and you actually find out if you run the maths that basically they can only have just under 6 seconds per sound, and that's at lowest quality. So it's like it makes you really think about what restrictions they're working with and their approach for how they manage the audio assets, because a lot of the time it gets kind of shoved behind gameplay and visuals,
But
unless
still
it's
made
a
them very
story game.
creative,
Yeah,
right? To, you know.
it's really cool because audio is so hardware focused, especially on the older games. You can really appreciate how the audio is done.
I can see you guys having so much success together in the future, because you're all such talented people here, and I love that. Nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Nice. Okay, let me look if there is any more questions. Oh yeah, Mini is saying if you guys are down, we on the stream could play a game together if you guys have some time in the near future with my community.
Yeah, sure. At
Oh,
some
cool.
point. At some point,
At some
yeah.
point, yeah.
Sure.
Nice. Okay.
I'm down for that.
Okay.
Yeah, be up for it, sure.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so I think we had discussed a lot of topics here, and if there isn't any more question, let me see. Let me see. Then we can call it an end. if you guys still have time, I will have 1 or 2 minutes of your time, if that's okay.
Good to me.
Okay. Okay. Let me watch back if there was any question. But no, I don't see it. Okay, I think that we can call it an end, and I'm very thankful and very honored to.
It was awesome, dude.
Yeah,
I had
to
a lot
be
of fun
here with you all, and yeah, thank you everyone who joined us and who will watch back the VOD or the edited version of the YouTube video in the near future. And thanks everyone for joining us. Thank you very much.
Do you need me to
Bye-bye.
me to send you the footage?
Yeah, I will work with that at a later date, because I'm still like I think I told you that I'm still figuring out the perfect intro for my Dev Live show. I don't want to just upload on the YouTube and say okay, it's good. I want something special for every episode, because like I said, it's not just so like I told you before, my Dev Live shows are really like a family roundtable and therapy sessions, not just for me, but the people who are listening and for the developers that are talking with me as well. I think, and I hope, rather to say, I hope that we all can grow as a person by these, talks to each other, and we can learn from each other. And that's why I want to, have very special intros, so that people can understand these things and see behind the curtain. So I'm very thankful for your time. And thanks everyone who was watching us. Have a nice evening or day, depending where you live. Bye bye.
All right.